In the endless reach of the Milky Way, two great powers stood on the edge of war. One was the Vylari Empire, a proud alien civilization known for their beauty, grace, and deep-rooted traditions. Their cities shone with crystal towers that touched the clouds, and their rulers were said to have voices that could calm storms. The other power was humanity's Galactic Union, young, restless, and full of ambition. Humans had spread faster than anyone expected, building colonies on worlds thought impossible to inhabit. To the Vylari, they were newcomers, brave but wild, strong but unpredictable. For years, both sides traded, argued, and competed. Then a border incident nearly set the stars on fire. Fleets gathered. Missiles were armed. The galaxy held its breath. To stop the coming war, the High Council of both empires agreed on something ancient and symbolic: a marriage alliance. It was meant to unite their people through peace. A royal Vylari heir would be joined with a human representative, forming a living bond between their civilizations. But one person did not agree. Her name was Princess Serenia Vylari, daughter of the Empress and heir to the Crystal Throne. She was known for her intelligence and pride, her voice calm and her gaze cold as winter light. To her, this marriage was an insult. When the Empress told her of the decision, Serenia's silver eyes flashed with anger. "Mother, this cannot be serious," she said, her voice sharp. "A Vylari joining with a human? They are not our equals." The Empress sighed, her expression calm but tired. "You speak with pride, my daughter, but not with wisdom. Humanity is no longer a minor race. Their fleets could match ours. Their spirit is unpredictable. They could be a threat or an ally. This union will prevent a war." Serenia turned away, her hands clenched. "You are asking me to surrender our honor for convenience." "No," said the Empress softly. "I am asking you to save lives." But Serenia did not listen. In her heart, she held the belief that humans were reckless creatures, destroyers of their own planet, conquerors of fragile worlds. They were loud, emotional, and impulsive. To her, they were everything the Vylari were not. And now, one of them was to become her partner. The human chosen for this alliance was Captain Elias Grant, an explorer and decorated officer from the Human Union fleet. He was known for saving 2 colonies from collapse, negotiating with alien raiders, and surviving a crash landing on a death world. Unlike many others, Elias was not from noble blood or royal lineage. He was a soldier, a man who earned his place through courage and reason. When the Vylari delegation met him for the first time, they found him standing alone in the starport hangar, studying the alien ships that gleamed like blue glass. His uniform was simple, his posture calm. He didn't bow or boast. He simply nodded with quiet respect. "Captain Grant," said the Vylari ambassador, his tone cold. "You understand the honor being placed upon you?" Elias smiled faintly. "Honor? I understand responsibility, Ambassador. If my part can prevent a war, I'll do what's needed." It wasn't the answer the Vylari expected. They had expected pride or fear. Instead, they saw steady confidence. Days later, the first meeting between Princess Serenia and Captain Grant was arranged inside the Vylari Palace of Glass. The entire event was broadcast across both empires. Billions of citizens watched their screens as human and Vylari history crossed paths. Serenia entered the Grand Hall first, surrounded by guards in shimmering armor. She walked with perfect grace, her crystal blue gown flowing behind her like water. She looked calm, but inside she was furious. Elias stood waiting at the center of the hall. He wore the black and silver uniform of a human officer, his medals shining faintly under the palace lights. He looked up as she approached, his expression respectful but steady. When she stopped before him, silence filled the hall. For a long moment, they only stared at each other, the proud alien princess and the quiet human captain. Finally, Serenia spoke first. "So you are the human they sent?" Elias nodded slightly. "Yes, Your Highness." "Elias Grant at your service." Her gaze hardened. "I did not ask for your service." "I know," he said calmly. "Neither did I ask for this union. But I understand why it must happen." Serenia tilted her head, studying him. "Do you truly believe peace can be bought with ceremony?" "No," Elias replied. "But it can begin with trust." The princess almost laughed, but something in his tone stopped her. It wasn't arrogance, it was sincerity. She could feel that he meant every word. It unsettled her. After the meeting, Serenia retreated to her private chambers, angry at herself for feeling uncertain. The human's calm presence had caught her off guard. He did not behave like the loud and crude creatures she had imagined. He had stood firm, spoke little, and his eyes carried something she could not name, something strong but gentle. Her advisor, Lord Terrell, noticed her silence. "Your Highness, are you troubled?" She shook her head. "No, I'm only thinking," Terrell bowed slightly. "If I may, the humans are strange, yes, but they are also brave. Perhaps this union will—" "Enough," Serenia cut him off. "I will do what is required, but I will not pretend to like it." Meanwhile, Elias was shown to his quarters within the palace. The Valari attendants treated him politely but distantly. He was aware of their eyes watching every move he made. As he looked out over the glowing city from his balcony, he spoke softly to himself. "So this is how peace begins, with silence and suspicion." His aide, a young human officer named Reeve, chuckled nervously. "Do you think they'll ever accept us, sir?" Elias turned toward the stars. "Acceptance doesn't matter. Understanding does. We don't have to be the same. We just need to stop being enemies." That night, Elias received a message from the Human Council. "Maintain respect. Represent humanity's strength with dignity." He smiled faintly. "Strength," he whispered. "Sometimes strength means staying calm when others expect you to break." The next day, the palace prepared for the engagement ceremony, a symbolic event to mark the start of the peace agreement. Delegates from dozens of worlds arrived. The hall was filled with color and light. Serenia stood on the royal platform, expression cold and composed. She wore the crown of her house, its crystal gems glowing softly. Elias walked forward across the hall, every eye fixed on him. The humans watching through broadcasts back home cheered softly. The Valari audience watched in silence. When he reached the dais, Elias bowed respectfully. Serenia extended her hand, and for a brief moment their eyes met again. It lasted only a second, but something changed. Serenia felt an odd calmness, like the sound of rain after a storm. The ceremony completed without flaw. Yet afterward, in the quiet corridors, Serenia found herself replaying that single moment. The way his eyes looked straight into hers, without fear or pride, only quiet resolve. Later that evening, she sat alone in her garden, surrounded by glowing trees that shimmered like crystal. The air was cool and still. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Why did I hesitate?" She tried to convince herself it was nothing, just surprise, just confusion. But deep down she knew it was something else, something that frightened her more than war itself. For the first time in her life, the proud princess felt uncertain, not about politics or power, but about a single human who stood unshaken before her. And far away, in his room overlooking the alien stars, Captain Elias Grant looked up at the same sky and thought quietly, "She's not what I expected either." The galaxy was watching. Neither of them knew it yet, but this uneasy alliance was about to change everything forever. The day after the engagement ceremony, the palace of the Valari Empire glowed with silver light. The city outside was celebrating the new alliance, but inside the crystal walls, the air was tense. Princess Serenia Valari sat in the royal chamber, staring at a hollow screen showing endless streams of news from both sides. The human media praised the event as a historic step toward peace. The Valari networks were not so kind. A royal heir joins with a primitive outsider. Has the empire lost its pride? A human cannot understand Valari honor. Each headline felt like a sting. Serenia closed the holoscreen and took a deep breath. Her pride wouldn't let her admit it, but the criticism hurt. She had always lived by the Valari way. Order, grace, perfection. And now her name was tied to a species that her people barely respected. She stood and looked out of her window at the shining capital below. The floating towers reflected the twin suns, and the sky was filled with gentle blue light. But even the beauty of her home couldn't calm her heart. Behind her, a soft voice spoke. "Your Highness, the human captain waits in the audience hall." It was her attendant, Laura, a gentle Valari servant who had served her since childhood. Serenia turned slowly. "Why?" Laura hesitated. "He requested to see you privately. He said he wanted to understand our customs." Serenia frowned. "He dares to ask for my time so soon?" Still, she couldn't refuse, not after the council's orders. The alliance had to appear genuine. Every small act mattered now. "Very well," she said coldly. "Send him in." Elias Grant entered the audience hall a few minutes later. The vast room shimmered with polished crystal pillars and glowing patterns that danced like living stars. He walked quietly, hands clasped behind his back, respectful but never fearful. When he reached the center, he bowed politely. "Your Highness." Serenia sat on her high seat, her expression unreadable. "Captain Grant," she said. "You asked to see me?" "Yes," Elias replied calmly. "If I am to represent humanity in this alliance, I should understand the culture I am joining. I would not wish to offend by mistake." His words were simple, but his tone was serious. Serenia studied him for a long moment. She could sense honesty in his voice. It made her uneasy. "Very well," she said. "Tell me, Captain, what do humans think of this alliance?" Elias hesitated. "Some support it. Some fear it. Many think it's a risk worth taking." "A risk?" Serenia repeated. He nodded. "Peace always is. We've fought too many wars. Maybe it's time we learn to trust someone different." His calm eyes met hers, and for a heartbeat neither spoke. Serenia looked away first. "Your words are bold for someone standing in a foreign court." Elias gave a faint smile. "Maybe, but truth sounds the same in every language." That simple line made her pause. She had met countless diplomats and nobles, but none spoke with such quiet confidence. Humans, she thought, truly were strange. Days turned into weeks. The Vylari Palace prepared for the unity ceremony, the next step before the official marriage. It was a series of public events showing cooperation between the two sides, training exercises, cultural exchanges, and joint meetings. To everyone's surprise, Elias became popular among the palace staff. He treated everyone, from guards to cooks, with the same respect. He learned their language quickly and even fixed a damaged energy generator in one of the palace gardens. "Humans are surprisingly skilled," one of the engineers whispered to another. Serenia noticed it all. Every evening, she received reports about the human captain, how he helped, how he spoke, how he worked late into the night. She tried to ignore it, telling herself it didn't matter. But secretly, she was curious. One afternoon, she went to observe the joint training held in the palace arena. There, she saw Elias demonstrating human combat techniques to a group of Vylari soldiers. He moved with precision, fast, focused, and disciplined. His voice was calm, explaining each move patiently. The soldiers, at first skeptical, started to listen closely. When Elias noticed Serenia watching from the balcony, he straightened and gave a small, respectful nod. "Your Highness," he said loudly, "perhaps you would honor us with your guidance." The soldiers turned toward her in surprise. Serenia hesitated, but all eyes were on her. With slow steps, she descended to the arena floor. "What do humans hope to teach us?" she asked, her tone careful. Elias met her gaze. "Not to teach, but to share. We both have strengths. If we combine them, we'll both be better prepared for what's coming." "What's coming?" she asked softly. He looked toward the stars. "The unknown." "It always comes." Serenia said nothing, but something in his words struck her, an echo of truth she couldn't deny. That evening, Serenia sat with her mother, the Empress, during a private dinner. The Empress watched her daughter carefully. "You seem thoughtful," the Empress said gently. "Has the human captain said something to trouble you?" Serenia shook her head. "He is different. I expected arrogance, but he is calm. I expected ignorance, but he listens. I do not understand him." The Empress smiled faintly. "Then perhaps you are beginning to see what I saw. Peace begins with understanding, not agreement." Serenia sighed. "He carries himself with strange confidence, as if he knows he does not belong yet refuses to be ashamed of it." "That," the Empress said, "is the strength of humanity. They do not hide their flaws. They turn them into courage." Serenia looked down at her reflection in her glass of crystal water. "Courage," she repeated softly. "Maybe that is what I lack." Meanwhile, in his private quarters, Elias sat reading about Vylari history. Their traditions fascinated him, how they valued grace, order, and harmony in every aspect of life. Yet he also saw the weakness in their perfection, fear of change. His aide, Reeve, entered with a grin. "The palace guards were talking about you again, sir. I think they're starting to like you." Elias chuckled softly. "That's good. Maybe this alliance has a chance after all." Reeve's smile faded. "Do you trust them, sir?" Elias looked out the window at the glowing towers. "Trust starts small, Reeve. One honest word, one fair action. That's how peace grows. Or dies." A few days later, the unity ceremony began. It was a grand event held in the Hall of Stars, a massive dome filled with light projections of galaxies. Serenia and Elias stood side by side as representatives from both species gave speeches about hope and future cooperation. But behind the shining lights, not everyone celebrated. In the shadows of the city, a group of Vylari radicals whispered among themselves. "The humans bring weakness," one said. "The princess is betraying our bloodline." Their leader, cloaked in dark robes, replied coldly, "Then we will remind the Empire of who truly rules. The human must not live long enough to complete the union." And so, while the galaxy celebrated peace, a silent storm began to form. Back in the palace, after the ceremony, Serenia and Elias stood alone in the great hall. The lights dimmed as the guests departed. "You handled the speeches well," Elias said with a faint smile. "Even when that one ambassador called me a curious mistake," Serenia almost smiled. "You did not seem offended." "I've been called worse," he said lightly. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Serenia spoke quietly. "Captain, why do you always stay calm, even when others insult you?" Elias thought for a moment before answering. "Because anger blinds you. If I lose my temper, I prove their point. But if I stay calm, I prove mine." She nodded slowly, her expression softening. "You are unlike any human I imagined. And you," Elias said gently, "are not the enemy I was told to fear." Their eyes met again. The space between them felt fragile, uncertain, but filled with something new. Respect. Neither of them knew it yet, but their fragile understanding would soon be tested in ways neither side could imagine. Because far beyond the shining towers, ships were moving in secret, ships belonging to those who would do anything to stop this alliance, and the first spark of danger was about to reach the palace. The Vylari palace was never truly silent. Even at night, the crystal towers hummed softly, and the glowing bridges pulsed with gentle light. But on this night, the air felt different, heavy, tense, and cold. Princess Serenia Vylari stood on her balcony, looking out across the silver city. The stars shimmered above, distant and calm, unaware of the unrest below. She had sensed it for days, a strange energy, whispers among the nobles, guards exchanging uneasy glances. Something was wrong. Behind her, the chamber door slid open with a soft sound. It was her trusted attendant, Laura. "Your Highness," Laura said quietly, bowing. "The council has ended their midnight session. They have confirmed rumors of unrest." Serenia turned sharply. "Unrest from where?" Laura hesitated before answering. "From within, Your Highness. A faction of nobles believes this human alliance is an insult to our bloodline. They call themselves the True Line." Serenia's heart sank. She had expected disapproval, even anger, but not open rebellion. "They would risk civil war for pride?" she asked. "Yes," Laura said softly. "And there is more. They have placed bounties on the human captain's life." Serenia froze. For a moment, her mind went blank. She didn't know what to feel, anger, fear, or guilt. Elias had done nothing wrong. He had come in peace, showing respect and patience even when surrounded by distrust. And now, he was being hunted because of her. "Find out everything you can," Serenia ordered, her voice suddenly sharp. "But do not tell the council. If the news spreads too fast, it will cause panic." Laura bowed again and hurried out. Serenia stayed still, staring out into the night sky. The thought of danger reaching the human captain made her chest feel tight. She had sworn she would never care about him. And yet now she couldn't stop worrying. Down in the east courtyard, Captain Elias Grant was finishing his late-night walk. The palace guard saluted him politely, though still uncertain of him. He had earned their respect slowly through quiet effort and kindness. As he walked under the pale glow of Vylari trees, his communicator buzzed. It was his aide, Reeve. "Sir, sensors just picked up strange movements near the lower docks," Reeve reported. "Small ships, unregistered." Elias frowned. "Smugglers?" "Could be. But the palace security didn't detect them first." "That's strange. Keep eyes on them," Elias said calmly. "Don't raise alarms yet. I'll check in with the Vylari guard captain." As he ended the call, Elias looked up at the sky. Something didn't feel right tonight. A few hours later, the palace prepared for the council banquet, an event meant to celebrate the success of the unity ceremony. Serenia and Elias were both expected to attend as symbols of peace. The grand hall sparkled with crystal chandeliers and shimmering lights. Alien melodies filled the air, and nobles in flowing garments spoke in soft tones. Serenia arrived first, wearing a gown woven with silver threads that reflected light like water. She looked calm, regal, untouchable. When Elias entered, the hall fell into quiet whispers. He wore his black ceremonial uniform, its human design simple yet dignified. Some Vylari nobles nodded politely. Others turned away in disapproval. The Empress welcomed him with grace, but Serenia noticed something strange. At the far end of the hall, 3 nobles stood apart, speaking in low voices. Their eyes were sharp, watching Elias's every move. She recognized one of them, Lord Kael Vareth, a powerful figure who had long opposed the alliance. He smiled faintly when he noticed her looking. Something inside Serenia twisted. As the banquet began, musicians played and crystal wine was poured. Elias kept his calm, answering questions with quiet dignity. When a noble asked whether humans truly came from a death world, he smiled and replied, "Yes, our world is harsh, but maybe that's why we learned how to survive, and sometimes survival teaches compassion." Some of the Vylari guests seemed thoughtful at his words, others only frowned deeper. Serenia watched silently. She could sense how hard he was trying, not for himself but for the sake of peace. Every word he spoke was measured, every gesture respectful. For the first time she felt a spark of admiration. Then she saw movement. A servant approached with a tray of crystal cups. His steps were careful, but too careful. Serenia's sharp eyes caught it. The way his hand trembled, the way he avoided eye contact. Her instincts screamed a warning. When the servant neared Elias, Serenia's voice cut through the music. "Stop!" Everyone froze. Elias looked up confused. Serenia rose from her seat, eyes locked on the servant. "Remove your glove," she ordered coldly. The servant hesitated. Then suddenly, he dropped the tray and pulled a small weapon from his sleeve. The crowd gasped. Before anyone could move, Elias grabbed the table and flipped it forward, blocking the shot. The plasma bolt struck the crystal shield and scattered in sparks. The guards rushed in, pinning the attacker to the ground. Chaos filled the hall. Guests screamed. Some fainted. Elias turned toward Serenia, who was standing pale but steady. "Are you hurt?" he asked quickly. She shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. You saved me." He looked around at the guards restraining the assassin. "No, princess. You saved me. You saw it before I did." The Empress arrived, her calm mask unbroken. "Take him to the dungeons. Find who sent him," she commanded. As the guards dragged the would-be assassin away, Serenia's eyes met Elias's again. And this time there was no pride, no anger, only fear and something deeper she didn't want to name. Later that night, Serenia stood outside the infirmary. Elias had taken a minor burn from deflecting the plasma shot. The medics said it wasn't serious, but she couldn't leave until she saw for herself. When she entered, Elias sat up on the bed, bandaged but alert. He gave a faint grin. "Guess peace talks can get dangerous," she frowned. "You are joking?" He shrugged lightly. "If I don't laugh, I'll just start counting scars again. And that's boring." Despite herself, she almost smiled. "You risked your life for me." He shook his head. "You risked yours for me. We're even." Serenia looked away, unsure what to say. For years she had believed humans were careless, guided only by emotion. But this man, he was something else. Calm under pressure, fearless without being cruel. She finally whispered, "Why didn't you let the guards protect you?" "Because I was closer," he said simply. "And because peace is worth bleeding for." That sentence stayed with her long after she left the room. Meanwhile, deep beneath the palace, in the old crystal tunnels, a group of shadowed figures gathered. The captured assassin knelt before Lord Kael Vareth. "You failed," Kael said coldly, "and now they will tighten security." The assassin bowed his head. "Forgive me, Lord," the princess saw through it. Kael's eyes narrowed. "Then the princess must go too. If she has turned to favor the human, she is no longer one of us." The chamber went silent. Only the echo of his voice remained. "Prepare for the next strike," Kael commanded. This time there will be no warning. At dawn, the palace was quiet again, but serenity had vanished. Serenia stood by her window, staring at the rising suns. She could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the plasma bolt flash, saw Elias stand in front of her without hesitation. Her heart ached in a way she didn't understand. She had spent her life surrounded by guards, soldiers, and nobles who praised her status. But none of them had ever faced danger for her the way this human had. Laura entered quietly. "Your Highness, the Council demands an explanation. They believe humans may have caused the attack to gain sympathy." Serenia turned sharply, anger flashing in her eyes. "That's a lie." Her voice shook the room. Laura stepped back, startled. Serenia took a deep breath. "No more lies. I will go to the Council myself, and if they doubt the human, they will face me." For the first time, her pride served not as a wall, but as armor for someone else, and far away, Captain Elias Grant stood on the palace balcony, his gaze on the sunrise. He didn't know what would come next, but he could feel it. Something dangerous was growing in the shadows. And somehow, he knew the next storm would not come for him alone. It would come for them both. The morning sun bathed the Vylari Palace in pale light, casting long shadows across the crystal towers. The city seemed calm, but inside the palace the air was thick with tension. Princess Serenia Vylari paced the royal corridors. After the attempted assassination of Captain Elias Grant, she had become restless. She could not allow the threat to continue. The council, though shocked, refused to take immediate action against the radicals. Pride and tradition outweighed common sense. She stopped before a mirror, adjusting the silver sash of her ceremonial gown. "I will not sit idle while they plot death in our halls," she whispered to herself. Her gaze hardened. "I will protect him myself if I must." Meanwhile, Elias was already awake, reviewing palace security reports with his aide. Reeve. He had insisted on understanding the Vylari defense system not just for himself, but to prevent further attacks. "The palace layout is impressive," Elias said quietly, "but their sensor grids have blind spots." Reeve frowned. "You think someone else will try tonight?" Elias nodded. "I don't know. But the first attempt was too close. If they strike again, we need to be ready." He paused and looked out the balcony toward the glowing towers. He didn't want Serenia to know how deeply he felt responsibility for her safety. "I can't just sit back," he muttered. "Not when the peace of two empires depends on it." The next few days were filled with rigorous training and preparation. Serenia, though proud, agreed to join the human-led exercises. At first, she was reluctant. She believed Vylari combat methods were superior. But Elias showed her techniques that combined human endurance, quick thinking, and resourcefulness. "You must anticipate the enemy's unpredictability," Elias said, demonstrating a swift move to deflect an energy strike. "Vylari's strength is precision, but humans survive by adapting." Serenia followed carefully, her crystal blade flashing in the practice hall. She had to admit his methods were effective. Slowly, she began to see the value in his teaching. "You fight differently than Vylari," she remarked after a sparring match. "Different doesn't mean weaker," Elias replied. "We survive because we keep trying, no matter the odds." For the first time, Serenia felt a spark of admiration, not just for his skill, but for his calm determination. After training, they would often share quiet moments in the palace gardens. The gardens were filled with glowing flora that changed color with the day, and paths made of smooth crystal tiles. Here the hum of the city softened, and the two could speak freely. Elias asked her about her life, about the Vylari Empire, and about her dreams. Serenia at first responded with polite answers, but as days passed she began to share more. "I have never left this palace alone," she confessed one evening, sitting beneath a silver-leaved tree. "I have always been told humans are reckless, that they would destroy what they cannot control." Elias listened carefully. "And now?" She hesitated. "Now, I am not so certain," he smiled faintly. "You don't have to agree with us. You just have to see that we try. That is all any being can ask." She looked at him, studying the way he spoke with quiet honesty. Something inside her shifted. Pride no longer created a wall between them. It was slowly becoming respect. But even as their trust grew, danger loomed. Lord Kael'Vareth and his radical faction had regrouped in secret. They were angered not just by the human's survival, but by Serenia's growing involvement in protecting him. Their plots had failed before, but now they were planning something much larger. A strike that would not only target Elias but could shake the fragile peace between humans and Vailari. "We will not fail again," Kyle said, his voice low and controlled. "This time we hit where it hurts most. We will destroy the human and any who stand with him." His advisors nodded, their faces hidden beneath dark cloaks. The plan was careful, precise, and merciless. One afternoon, Serenia received intelligence from her loyal aides about suspicious movements near the palace's outer perimeter. Immediately, she went to Elias. "Captain Grant," she said firmly, "there may be another threat. We cannot wait for the Council's approval." Elias stood, meeting her eyes. "Then we act now." Together, they coordinated a defensive strategy. Vailari guards would patrol known blind spots, while Elias trained the palace security in anticipation of surprise attacks. For the first time, Serenia felt something unfamiliar, a sense of partnership. They were not just allies by order, they were allies by choice. "Do not underestimate them," Elias said. "They know our routines. They will strike where we least expect." Serenia nodded, her hand brushing the hilt of her crystal blade. "And we will meet them together." That night, the attack came. The first sign was a tremor in the palace grounds, followed by sudden alarms. Strange figures appeared in the shadows, using cloak devices to bypass sensors. They moved swiftly, attempting to reach the heart of the palace. Elias took command immediately, directing guards to intercept. Serenia, following close behind, led a group of elite soldiers. Her heart raced, not from fear but from focus. Every move had to be precise. Every step mattered. They met the first wave of attackers in the gardens. Plasma blades clashed with crystal swords and sparks flew across the glowing flora. Elias fought with efficiency, guiding soldiers to block and flank the intruders. Serenia was beside him, her blade a blur of silver light. For the first time, she felt a thrill she had never known in court life. Fighting not for tradition or status, but for survival and for someone she now deeply respected. In the chaos, a figure broke through the guards, a masked Vailari noble. Serenia's breath caught. It was Lord Kael'Vareth's personal champion, known for his unmatched skill. He lunged at Elias with a plasma spear. Elias blocked just in time, but the force sent him stumbling back. Serenia reacted instantly, intercepting the attacker with her blade. Sparks flew, and for a tense moment the two humans and Vailari fought side by side. Elias looked at her, surprised. "You're not holding back," he said. "I am protecting you," she replied, eyes sharp. The phrase startled both of them. Elias blinked, then nodded, understanding the weight behind her words. Together, they pushed the intruders back toward the palace gates. Guards and soldiers followed their lead, inspired by their courage and teamwork. One by one, the attackers were captured or driven away. When the last masked figure fled into the night, Serenia and Elias stood among the wreckage, panting but unharmed. The palace gardens were scorched, plants singed, but the palace itself remained intact. Elias looked at her with a faint smile. "You did well," he said. "You did not hesitate either," she replied, her voice soft but firm. For the first time, neither spoke of rank, pride, or duty. They simply stood together, two warriors from different worlds who had saved their people and each other. Later, in the infirmary, Serenia sat beside Elias as medics tended minor burns and bruises. Neither said much. Words were unnecessary. Finally, she whispered, "I owe you my life, Captain Grant." Elias shook his head. "You owe me nothing. We fought together. That's enough." But in that quiet room, both of them knew something had shifted. Respect had grown into trust. Trust into something deeper, though neither dared name it aloud. As dawn broke, the Vailari Council convened. Reports of the failed attack spread quickly. Many were shocked by the boldness of the radicals, and some even questioned the wisdom of continuing the alliance. Serenia rose, her crystal blue eyes blazing. "This attack proves only one thing," she said firmly. "If we do not unite, these radicals will destroy everything we hold dear." "Captain Grant is not a threat, he is a protector." "And so am I." The council fell silent. For once, no one dared argue. Outside, the twin suns rose over the city, casting golden light on the polished towers. Serenia and Elias stood together on the balcony, surveying the palace that had survived the night. "You fought well," she said quietly. "And so did you," he replied. Their eyes met, and in that moment words were unnecessary. They had faced danger together. They had survived together. And though the shadows of the radicals still lingered, they knew one thing. Whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The sun had barely risen over the Velari capital when alarms sounded throughout the palace. Princess Sirenia Velari was already awake, standing at her balcony, scanning the distant horizon. Today was different. She could feel it in her bones. The previous attack had been a warning, a test. Now the real danger was coming. Her heart raced, but it was no longer fear that drove her. It was determination. She would not let the radicals or anyone destroy what the Empire and humans were building together. Behind her, Laura appeared, calm but tense. Your Highness, reports confirm multiple ships approaching at high speed. They are armed and precise, Sirenia's eyes narrowed. Then we prepare. Call Captain Grant immediately. Captain Elias Grant was already reviewing patrol data when the message reached him. His calm expression remained, but his mind raced. Multiple ships? He murmured. They want to overwhelm us quickly. Reeve, get all available personnel armed and ready. This is no drill. The two of them met in the palace command center, surrounded by holographic maps showing the incoming fleet. Sirenia, Elias said, looking at her with a serious gaze. We face more than just radicals. This is an all-out strike. Are you ready? She nodded, her silver eyes bright with resolve. I am, and I fight alongside you, human. Those words, simple and clear, held more weight than any command. For the first time, both of them stood not as representatives of their empires, but as partners in survival. The first wave of attackers struck within minutes. Cloaked ships darted through the outer defenses, attempting to bypass the palace shields. The Velari energy barriers shimmered as they absorbed the initial plasma fire, but the attackers were skilled, and cracks began to appear. Hold the line, Elias commanded, coordinating both human and Velari defenses. Do not let them reach the inner palace. Sirenia led a squad of Velari soldiers to strategic points along the outer walls. Her blade flashed in the bright light of plasma fire as she directed the defense. Every movement was precise, every decision swift. Beside her, Elias moved with equal skill, guiding human squads through ambush points, neutralizing enemy drones, and rallying soldiers when fear crept into their hearts. The palace trembled under the attack. Through the chaos, one ship broke away from the main fleet and headed directly toward the inner palace. It carried a strike team, trained assassins determined to kill Elias and Sirenia. Go with me, Elias shouted, grabbing Sirenia's hand. We take them before they reach the heart of the palace. She did not hesitate. Together they raced through corridors, dodging energy blasts and collapsing walkways. They reached the landing platform just as the enemy team began to deploy. Sirenia's voice rang out, commanding the Velari soldiers. Hold your positions. Protect the palace at all costs. Elias moved beside her, firing with precise aim, disabling enemy weapons without killing unnecessarily. The two of them fought side by side, a human and an alien princess, moving with uncanny coordination. Every strike, every command, every step reinforced the trust that had grown over weeks. One enemy, faster and stronger than the rest, broke through and lunged at Elias with a plasma spear. He blocked the strike but was pushed backward. Sirenia reacted instantly, intercepting the attacker with her blade. Sparks flew as metal met crystal, and for a tense moment the two stood back to back, surrounded by the enemy. You fight well, Elias said quietly over the chaos. So do you, Sirenia replied, her voice steady despite the heat of battle. Together, they pushed forward, clearing the platform of intruders. Their soldiers, inspired by their courage, rallied and captured the remaining enemies. The main fleet outside, seeing their strike team defeated, faltered. Velari and human pilots seized the opportunity to counterattack. Ships moved in perfect formation, guided by Elias's strategy and Velari navigation. The attackers were forced to retreat. By mid-afternoon, the palace was safe. The walls were scorched and some towers had minor damage, but the attackers had failed. Sirenia and Elias stood together on the balcony overlooking the city. Both were exhausted, their clothes singed and dust-covered, but neither felt defeated. Elias glanced at her, a small smile forming. We made it. Sirenia exhaled slowly, her silver hair glowing in the sunlight. We survived. Together. For the first time, the idea of the human as an outsider felt absurd. He was no longer an enemy. He was a protector, an equal, and perhaps something more. After the battle, the Valari Council convened an emergency session. Delegates debated fiercely, but this time the evidence was undeniable. The human captain and the princess had saved the palace and, by extension, the Empire. The Empress rose, her voice carrying calm authority. The attack today proves one truth. Division is dangerous. Unity is strength. Captain Grant has shown honor, courage, and skill. He is no threat to the Valari Empire. He is a friend. Serenia stood beside him. And I will not allow anyone to forget it, she added. We fight together, humans and Valari alike. That is the only path to peace. The council fell silent. Even Lord Kael Vareth, who had survived the attack, recognized the undeniable truth. The alliance was stronger than hatred. In the following days, the palace celebrated victory quietly. Repairs were underway, and the citizens of the Empire cheered both humans and Valari for their bravery. Serenia and Elias spent time together, not as princess and captain, but as partners who had faced life and death side by side. One evening, in the palace gardens, she turned to him. I never imagined I could feel this way toward a human. Elias studied her, eyes calm and steady. Nor I toward a Valari princess, he said. Her cheeks flushed slightly, but she smiled. Perhaps this alliance is more than duty. Perhaps it is. Understanding. And trust. And something else. I cannot yet name. He smiled faintly. I think we'll figure it out together. They walked through the glowing trees, side by side, a symbol of a new era, a union of two worlds, born not from tradition but from courage, respect, and shared struggle. The radicals, defeated but not gone, fled to the edges of the Empire. They had lost today, but they were already planning. However, the events of the battle had changed the people's perception. No longer were humans outsiders. No longer could extremists act in shadows unnoticed. Serenia and Elias knew this was only the beginning. But for now, they had won a critical victory. They had survived the storm, and in doing so, they had forged a bond that neither bullets nor politics could break. Months later, the marriage ceremony took place, not as a political arrangement, but as a celebration of unity. The halls were filled with representatives from across the galaxy. But this time, the focus was not duty alone, it was courage, trust, and the acknowledgement that two very different peoples could stand together. When Serenia and Elias stood side by side, exchanging vows in the light of the twin suns, a wave of calm passed over the assembled crowd. The two worlds had witnessed the first true symbol of lasting peace. Serenia's silver eyes met Elias's steady gaze. In that moment, all past doubts, all fear, all prejudice vanished. She had opposed this marriage once. But when she truly saw him, not as a human outsider, but as a man of honor, courage, and heart, she had frozen. And in that pause, a new chapter had begun. Outside the palace, the stars stretched endlessly. Ships flew overhead in patrols, keeping watch over the city. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, watching the unlikely alliance of humans and Valari stand as equals. Inside, Serenia and Elias stood together, hands entwined, looking toward the future. They did not know what challenges lay ahead, raiders, radicals, or unknown enemies in the stars. But they knew one thing: they would face it together. And that unity, born from respect, courage, and survival, was stronger than any weapon, any fleet, or any empire. The twin suns set, casting golden light over the city. Serenia whispered softly, almost to herself. Perhaps this is how peace begins. One choice, one trust, one shared moment of courage. Elias smiled beside her. And one human and one princess who refused to give up on each other. The galaxy watched in silence. And for the first time, it seemed hopeful.